кит там. Ёб твою мать! Блядь!
We don't have the facts yet. I don't think anybody should jump to conclusions. It was a flight that was headed from Baku to Grozny. There were reports that the weather in Grozny was poor, so the plane diverted to Aktau in Kazakhstan. There are suggestions that it may have been hit by Russian anti-aircraft fire. There are some photographs that show potentially damage from an anti-aircraft missile from shrapnel, but we need to wait until investigators have a chance to figure out what happened.
It could have been a number of things. Obviously, there have been issues with maintaining flights, maintaining aircraft. I didn't know if it was perhaps a Russian plane that was having issues with maintenance because of sanctions. Once I saw the photos of the damage pattern on the tail of the airplane, it seemed likely that it was potentially caused by an air defense system, just because the shrapnel pattern was consistent with being shot down by a surface-to-air missile.
There are various reports. One is a bird strike, that the plane crashed after hitting a flock of birds. A second theory is that because the plane may have been diverted, the Russians were not sure what the aircraft was, and this is an area that has experienced drone strikes from Ukraine, and as a consequence, anti-aircraft fire may have been directed towards this aircraft. At this point, I think we just don't have the facts.
I think there's a high probability that what the government of Azerbaijan has concluded is what happened, that being that a Russian air defense system misidentified the plane because the plane had been rerouted, and that they engaged it with air defense systems because because there have been attacks from that direction by Ukrainian unmanned systems, and so they probably mistook the passenger jet for a Ukrainian unmanned system and engaged it with air defenses.
These kinds of crashes, if indeed it is a crash that was the result of anti-aircraft fire, are not that unusual in war zones. In fact, we had a case just recently in which a U.S. anti-aircraft fire hit a U.S. aircraft. This is in the area around Yemen, where the U.S. is taking strikes against Houthi targets. So these kinds of things do happen. I think we just have to wait and see whether, in fact, Russian anti-aircraft fire was responsible for taking this plane down. It may mean that more airspace gets shut down, that different procedures are put in place to avoid these kinds of incidents in which civilian aircraft are exposed to fire that is related to an armed conflict. But again, we have to wait until we have more facts.
If Russia tries to deny this or cover this up, it could lead to a rift in Russian relations with Azerbaijan. If Russia doesn't apologize for what it's done and provide greater clarity in its airspace management, that could also lead to further degradation of relations between Russia and other countries along its border, particularly in Central Asia. the flight landed in Kazakhstan. There are flights between Kazakhstan and Russia, or flights that overfly Russian territory. And so if they aren't given some sort of assurance that these flights won't be shot down by Russian air defense systems, this could lead to disagreements between Russia and the states that not only border Russia, but have been critical in ensuring that Russia has been able to evade Western-led sanctions from its invasion of Ukraine. So a lot of the secondary or secondary goods that have been transshipped from original manufacturers to second-party countries and then onto Russia have gone through places like Azerbaijan or the Central Asian states. And so this could damage that relationship, make it more expensive for Russia to get those goods, and potentially have an economic as well as political impact on Russia. How this will impact, again, Russian ties with either Turkey or Iran, because, again, Russia has tried to increase its relations with both of those countries, and Azerbaijan is sort of this nexus between Turkey and Iran and has historically had relationships with them. And so, again, I think that Russia has seen itself as sort of the senior actor or the big brother in its relationships with these countries. And so if Russia continues to misbehave, I think it'll be interesting to see the dynamics between those quote unquote junior partners, and whether they begin to work together to try to not halt, but maybe rein in some of the excesses of the current Putin administration. They are going to continue doing things like this. They're going to continue shooting down civilian flights. They're going to continue to conduct sabotage in European countries and in the United States, industrial sabotage, espionage, cyber actions. So the best way to stop Russia from doing this is to demonstrate to Russia that they can't get away with it all the time. And the best way to do that is to provide Ukraine the equipment and support they need in order to not just fight as long as it takes, but to actually win.